This is Chrissy's story. Chrissy came to Alabaré and stayed with us for a year, staying at two of our Salisbury properties. I interviewed her over Zoom while she was homeschooling her son. So Chrissy, just a little bit of a Q&A really on your story, where you were and where you are now, if you're comfortable sharing that.
Yeah, I'm fine and fine to be here. He knows my story and he says he loves it when he hears me doing things like this because it makes him really proud of me.
Bless, that's so lovely.
Yesterday we did a video for Turning Point for their recovery channel. So he does the videoing and I do the talking.
Quite a little team. That's fantastic. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your move into supported housing then, and where you were before you came to Alabaré.
Before joining Alabaré, I was actually homeless. So I had 5 days in Unity House in Chippenham, but that was just a crisis 5-day shelter. Then it snowed. So due to the weather being below freezing, been offered a place, but they were just waiting for there to be an empty room. So prior to that, I was homeless. I was using drink and drugs. Basically, being an alcoholic and not being able to maintain a normal everyday lifestyle. And basically my life spiraled out of control and I wasn't able to manage my life, unfortunately.
When you say you were homeless, were you sofa surfing or were you out on the streets or?
I was in between. I was living in a car and then I was just wherever I could sleep, really. I slept rough as well.
The perception is that when we're talking about homeless, it's always about sleeping rough, but there's an awful lot of people who are struggling another way,
just grabbing a bed where they can. And then sometimes that makes things even worse rather than making it better. You become a victim of your own circumstances even more, I think.
What was your sort of biggest takeaway from your involvement with us that you still use today?
Hope. One word that describes it all. Alabaré gave me hope. God, I'm going to start crying. Yeah, I mean, literally, I think my family had pretty much disowned me. Everybody had written me off, and I was in hospital with pneumonia, and all my liver organs failed, and I was in London in induced coma, and I still came out of that and drank alcohol, and I was pretty near to dying before I came to Alabaré.
So, what would you say to perhaps others who may be facing the same difficulties that you have?
I think that it's never too late to change your behaviour. I think once people get to a certain age and they've travelled a path for so long, they think that's the only path that's open to them. But there is actually a different way. Always got a choice in life. You've got a choice whether to take drugs or not, whether to drink or not. Different route you can take. And if you want to change your behaviour, there is so much support out there, but you can't expect people to come in and change it for you. I've seen life from the very bottom and what it's really like, the grim reality, the harsh reality of being a drug addict living on the street, and it isn't a good place to be. Saying it's easy at all, it's definitely not easy, but there's always another way. There's always another choice that people can make.
So how are we able to assist you at Alabaré?
It all comes down to the individuals that you have working for you as an organisation, really. Okay, first and foremost, it was a roof over my head. It was shelter, it was warmth, it was food, it was kindness. Well, I don't know what it's like with lockdown and everything, but the drop-in at Alabaré, what a lifeline that is for people. Once those fundamental needs were being met, i.e. I had something to eat, somewhere to sleep, somewhere warm, then you can start looking at other things, because unless you've got those basic needs met, it's very difficult to start trying to sort out your life. If you're struggling for somewhere to sleep and something to eat, you don't start thinking about changing your behaviour and I think then, from then on forward, it was down to individual people that work for Alabaré who inspired me and sometimes gave me some tough love. There was one key member of staff that really, through his conversations with me and everything, just showed me that there really was another way and that it was possible to change my life and turn everything around.
So how's your life changed as a result?
Wow. I'm coming up to 3 years clean. So I work for a charity called Richmond Fellowship, who I'm supporting people with mental health and housing issues. So I'm still working 3.5 days a week doing that. And I'm still having to go out and visit people in crisis. I'm a full-time mum, so I peer mentor for Nelson Trust and for Turning Point. I've completely changed my life around. It's completely different to how it was pre-Alabaré. I'm not saying life is perfect. Life still has its struggles.
Yeah.
But now I don't think that having a bottle of vodka is going to solve those problems and make life easier. I now work through, my issues as they come up, and like any other person does. Life's full of ups and downs. I feel like I'm living my life now, whereas before that I was just existing to a certain extent.
So what would you say is your hope for the future and that of your family?
Continue. I have to take my life one day at a time. That's sobriety for me. The son to do well in his life, to continue doing the kind of work that I do. I know now I will always work myself in a support role to other people, because I feel the lived-in experience that I've got and the rewards that I feel from supporting other people is what fills my sort of tank now, what fills my emotional tank. And just to continue on this path of sobriety, because anything else is,
it's the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's a day. It will always be a day at a time for me. That is my life. But actually, that's okay. It's okay to be one day at a time. It's okay to live your life like that. It's better to live your life like that than it is, drinking or taking drugs. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
So just out of interest for the team, I suppose, more importantly, what else do you think would have been helpful if we'd have been able to provide it?
It's so hard. It's so hard because it's all down to resources and what's available. I was definitely lucky to leave Alabaré Place and to go to Barnabas House. For me, that was the best move that ever could have happened, because when I was at Alabaré, there were too many people. It was too hectic. I felt overwhelmed really being in there. It wasn't till I moved to Barnabas House and there was more of a home-like feel to the place. Engaging with key workers there was much easier because there was an open door office. They sort of welcomed you going in for a chat. And especially in my early days of recovery, when I didn't want to sort of hang out with people who were drinking and taking drugs, that really stabilised me, having people that I could talk to every day who were more on my wavelength than people who were still using. So having that open door office policy was probably my saviour.
Oh, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Just, as I email Nikki from time to time, when something comes up, sometimes I'll be doing something like decorating the Christmas tree and I get this overwhelming sort of sense of gratitude. And just to express my gratitude, really, but not just to elaborate, to those individuals who go above and beyond in their roles, who genuinely want to help people recover. It's an amazing thing, recovery. Literally, I feel sometimes like Jesus preaching about recovery. But it really is a miracle, when somebody who's been lost for so long. I mean, I won't go back into my childhood, but that's where all the trauma, it's most people in addiction, it's sparked by childhood trauma, which mine was. But, for somebody who was lost for so long, to recover and have the clarity in life that I do now is amazing.
So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, for which we're eternally grateful. And I hope by doing so, perhaps you draw some strength from that yourself.
And if you could let me know about the sponsored sleep, that would be great, because I think we'll definitely be up for doing that.
Absolutely. All
Perfect, right. Nikki, that's great. Nice to speak to you. Enjoy the rest of your day.